Sharon Tong. Welcome to In Parliament. Acting Manpower Minister Tan Chuan Jin said the government will ensure Singaporeans' aspirations are met with good jobs. This even as it opts for slower, productivity-driven growth. But he cautioned that there's a need to tread carefully and some foreign manpower will be needed.
Foreign manpower is transient. They will not grow old here. They will expand, contract, depending on how we see the situations evolve over time. We will manage the manpower downwards, reducing the 1 to 2% as mentioned earlier and 1% thereafter in the next decade. Growth means we will no longer rely on just cheap foreign workers. We have to see how to forego such growth and change.
Mr. Tan also addressed concerns about discrimination against Singaporean workers.
There is no place for employment discrimination in Singapore. The government has and will continue to uphold fair employment for all Singaporeans. So we are going to continue to look after Singaporeans even as competition becomes more keen. We care about whether Singaporeans are experiencing discrimination in the job market. The Ministry of Manpower has and will investigate cases of employers who are believed to have resorted to unfair employment or recruitment practices, such as those who post discriminatory job ads or who recruit their own kind regardless of merit. As our esteemed member Lee Bee Wah mentioned the other day about the entire village coming over to Singapore.
Mr. Tan said the anxiety Singaporeans have about immigration and the foreign workforce is natural and, in a way, a reflection of Singaporeans' growing sense of identity. But he cautioned against a too nationalistic approach. Here, he took issue with the Workers' Party call for a Singaporean core that's made up of those who grew up in and with Singapore.
I honestly don't know how far back we should go before Singaporeans count. I think even here in this house, some of us are not born in Singapore. Ms. Irene Ng is not born in Singapore. Mr. Chen Xiao Mao is not born in Singapore. Does it make them second-class citizens? We have many Singaporeans who are not born here. They may not have grown here, but they have decided to make this place home and serve and contribute to our society. Should this be what defines us as Singaporeans? And it's an important question. Are these the values we as Singaporeans subscribe to?
Mr. Tan also referred to the Workers' Party proposal to have a zero foreign manpower growth for the next 8 years, saying while it looked good on paper, putting it into practice will only hurt Singaporeans. Minister in the Prime Minister's office, S. Iswaran, echoed this view. He said stopping the growth of the foreign workforce was extreme and inherently very risky.
It will damage our reputation and severely impair our efforts to attract new and different businesses, which can offer precisely the kind of diverse jobs that better educated Singaporeans seek. In short, the Workers' Party proposal will have a chilling effect on our economy. It is a freeze scenario under which we might well contain the number of foreign workers. The Workers' Party is taking an extreme risk with the livelihoods of Singaporeans and the survival of our businesses.
Instead, Mr. Iswaran said the white paper was proposing a measured and balanced approach in transforming the economy. This, he said, would provide job opportunities and a bright future for Singaporeans.
Government will prepare every Singaporean to reach their full potential, to stand them in good stead to fill these jobs that we are creating. It is painstaking work, and we are doing this sector by sector to cater to diverse needs. Government will also help train Singaporeans so that we can take on, either from the very beginning or over time, more of the jobs that are being created in promising new sectors.
Also taking issue with the Workers' Party's proposal, Senior Parliamentary Secretary for Communications and Information Sim Ann questioned which groups of Singaporeans will have to step in to make up the shortfall. Speaking in Mandarin, she said the circumstances of these groups may not allow them to enter the workforce so easily.
如果我们就按照工人党同僚的这个说法，我们把外国劳务整体的团队来一个画面定格，我们现在不要再增加外国劳务，那么我们来挖掘本地的劳动力，有哪些人呢？ 我们可以想象一下，我们可能会有退休的人士，我们可能会有在家照顾一家老小的家庭主妇或者是妈妈们。那么我们要怎么样的来吸引他们回到工作岗位？这个确实是应该做的。可是，就是如刚才易华仁部长所说的，这个提议本身并不是问题。要命呢，是要命在从现在开始把外国劳务人员来一个定格。那我们请这个退休人士，有些可能愿意，有些可能不愿意工作。
首先也谈到了很多人手的问题，而其他的说法，如果要解决人手的问题，那好吧，那就让2030年的新加坡有690万的人口，2050年的新加坡有1000万的人口，再接下去我也不会算了。就让新加坡的未来去算吧。
我代表政府在这里呢，确确实实也是对我们所有的人民的现在以及未来下一代的生活感到关心。这就是为什么我们大家坐在这里进行着这一场既动情，可是呢又是贴近事实的辩论。
The Workers' Party proposal has taken in all the concerns that I expressed in this House. We're very careful that we don't want to rock the economy. The proposal is a very careful, considered, calibrated approach. We are looking at a GDP growth of 2.5 to 3.5%. It is not an extreme model.
You state that your GDP projections are not extreme. Indeed, I agree with you. In fact, your GDP projections are not the issue. That is arithmetic. What is extreme is your proposal as a policy on foreign manpower addition to this economy for this decade. That is what is extreme. And that is what is going to cause the kind of issues I talked about. And that is what is going to cause the wrong signals to go out and potentially cause irreparable damage to our reputation and our ability to then turn on the tap in the next decade as the Workers' Party thinks we can. That's the crux of the issue.
As a labour movement, we are very concerned that yes, we want restructuring, but restructuring, it cannot be like a restructuring cliff. Jump from today, tomorrow, from this drive to wafer fab overnight. It won't happen. You have to go through a process of transition.
Several members of the House who spoke today shared the view that it was necessary to keep Singapore competitive in the global market, making calls to ensure Singapore remains an attractive place to invest in. They said this would create job opportunities for Singaporeans as well.
The white paper before this House today is the effort made by the government to prevent a repeat of history. The point is that it's not whether the population size should be 5.9 or 6.9. It is about how we keep our economy growing at a sustainable rate, create better jobs for Singaporeans, and provide care and support to our elders who have contributed much to our country. These objectives are the key responsibilities of the government. But they must have the people's support. We must build a consensus on these objectives in order for the government to act for the benefit of Singaporeans.
I remember the story of Cinderella. For her, a magical moment was granted her to go to the royal ball, and everything was transformed, and she went there in all the glory. But she has to leave that party before the clock strikes 12. Because once the clock hits 12 o'clock, her carriage will change back into being the pumpkin, the horsemen will revert to being mice, and her gown will go back to being rags. Singapore's movement from being an underdeveloped country to a developed one happened much quicker than most other countries. But like Japan, we also have a rapidly aging population, and our citizen population is expected to start shrinking from 2025, which is a mere 12 years from now. This is a time bomb, and it's ticking. Will we experience our own Cinderella moment when our achievements will begin to unravel? I certainly don't want to see that happen.
There were also several calls for more time to solve Singapore's infrastructure problems before moving forward with the population plan.
What are our priorities? In the pursuit of growth, this government has acknowledged that it had neglected to pay close attention to the comfort level of the Singaporean core in areas like transport, housing, and other environmental and cultural issues. While the people should give the government some time to fix its 2020 foresight, the government should also give the people more time to experience what it's really like to live in a country with 5.3 million people with all the shortcomings fixed. Because when yesterday's problems are not fixed, the vision for a better tomorrow is a hard sell. It's a no sell.
My residents have expressed their concerns to me about overcrowding, the perception that Singaporean wage increases and opportunities are compromised by foreign labor, and a cost of living that appears to be climbing ever upwards. One resident remarked that notwithstanding everything else, quote, the bread and butter issues of today must be resolved first, unquote. This is a sentiment that I can sympathize with and echoes many of the views expressed in this House over the past few days.
During question time, Acting Minister for Social and Family Development Chan Chun Sing said by 2020 there will be 29 day activity centres for adults with disabilities. Currently, there are 19 of such centres which provide 950 places for adults who need full day care, and 4 pilot drop-in disability programmes at community facilities will begin this year. This will cater to those who do not require full day care. For adults with disabilities who need residential care, Mr. Chan said there are plans to provide an additional 2,400 residential places by 2020.
We are also looking at new sources of manpower to see whether we can open up more opportunities for people to contribute part-time services to this community. At the same time, in order to ensure that our manpower supply is robust, we will also need to explore alternative sources of manpower beyond the traditional countries that we have been working with.
Turning to the Home Ownership Plus Education or HOPE scheme, Mr. Chan said there are 301 divorced mothers on the scheme, which is an assistance program for lower-income families who choose to keep their families small. Benefits include bursaries for the children and grants for housing and utilities. Mr. Chan said a number of divorced women on the scheme had marginally missed the eligibility criteria, but were admitted on a case-by-case basis. He said his ministry is reviewing the scheme and will note Nee Soon MP Lee Bee Wa's suggestion to raise the age and income limit. The acting minister also outlined the measures that are in place to help women whose ex-husbands default on maintenance payments.
Under the Women's Charter, the court can make an attachment of earning orders when it makes an order for maintenance. An attachment of earnings order will deduct the maintenance amount directly from the payer's salary and transfer it to the maintenance recipient. This will help to secure payment of the maintenance.
Those with congenital illnesses diagnosed before 1st March will not be covered under the recent MediShield extension. That's because conditions diagnosed prior to the extension are considered pre-existing. The Health Ministry had extended MediShield coverage to congenital conditions for Singaporeans born on or after 1st March under the Marriage and Parenthood Package. Existing policyholders will also receive coverage for congenital conditions diagnosed on or after 1st March. Parliamentary Secretary for Health Faisal Ibrahim said covering pre-existing conditions will lead to higher premiums for all.
We have set up a new scheme, MediFund Junior, from 1st March 2013 to provide additional financial assistance for healthcare bills incurred by children. Children with congenital conditions diagnosed before 1st March 2013 will benefit from this additional assistance under MediFund Junior if their families face difficulties with their healthcare bills. MediFund Junior will help us to more effectively target families with higher needs and provide added assurance to Singaporeans.
The Ministry of Transport is open to implementing elderly-proof road safety master plans for estates with a higher number of elderly residents. Mr. Faisal was replying to a suggestion by Member of Parliament Ms. Denise Phua to have such road safety plans in areas such as Northbridge Road and Rochor.
I hope that some priority will be given to these areas so that the old people won't have to wait till it's too late, to enjoy some of these elderly-proof facilities.
We will be very happy to work with Member, looking at specific locations in her area, as well as others, to see how we can enhance the road safety aspect.
An estimated $19 million has been paid out under the Community Engagement Master Plan as of 31st December last year. Acting Minister for Culture, Community and Youth Lawrence Wong was giving an update in response to a question filed by nominated MP Janice Koh. The programme was launched in April 2012 and aims to bring arts and culture closer to Singaporeans. Mr. Wong revealed around half of the funds have gone towards establishing networks of staff and volunteers to engage residents and work with them to tailor programs of interest to the local community. Another 40% of the funds has been used to support new programs. The other 10% has been used to develop and upgrade facilities under the Community Engagement Master Plan.
My second question is related to manpower and whether or not the cultural officers that have been deployed or are hired to work at the CC level have been given the requisite training as well as the exposure to the arts.
I appreciate the point that these officers also need to be trained in arts at some level so that they understand what not only the needs of the community but also have a good understanding of arts, what's happening in the art space, who are the professionals in the arts sector that they can link up with. So that kind of exposure and training, we have done some, but I think we can do more and we will continue to do so.
Mr. Wong added the ministry gauges the master plan's success through both quantitative and qualitative indicators. Quantitative measures include the number of programs supported and the number of Singaporeans the programs have reached out to, whereas qualitative indicators include Singaporeans' perception of arts and culture. In response to Ms. Koh's question on whether the indicators at the agency level will be made public, Mr. Wong said they will do so to the extent it's possible.
Collectively, all of these efforts contribute towards a long-term outcome set out in the Arts and Culture Strategic Review. And one of the outcomes that is envisaged in the Arts and Culture Strategic Review is that by 2025, we hope that at least 4 out of every 5 Singaporeans will attend at least one arts and culture event, and at least half of all Singaporeans will participate actively in the arts.
A stronger focus on local development and content rather than international blockbusters may have contributed to the decline in visitorship at the Singapore Art Museum. Mr. Wong said despite this, he believes it is the right focus for the museum. He added the museum is working hard to promote greater awareness and interest in regional and local art, and over time, this will help draw more people to the museum.
I know that it's a lot more expensive to bring in the blockbusters, but in a way I hope that the ministry will consider other museums who can, in a way, take over this role, because it brings a large number of Singaporeans who may not ordinarily go into the museum to come and see world-quality art.
I think the museums are mindful of this. They do want to have more focused exhibitions, help providing platforms for local and regional artists. I think it's commendable that they are doing that, because we do need to promote that space a lot more. But they can't just do it exclusively. They will need to find a balance between the kinds of exhibitions that they have.
Parliament resumes tomorrow, its final day of the debate on the White Paper on Population. Good night.